Okay, this is going to be my review of Superman the movie extended cut. I've had this in my collection for quite a long while, or a few years, should I say. And I remember buying it from HMV as soon as the day of release. And luckily, they only had a few copies of the Blu-ray, two from collection left. And the guy who served me was also a Superman fan, and he didn't know that there was multiple different versions of Superman 1 and even a Superman 2 with the original theatrical release, and obviously later down the line we'd get the Superman 2 Richard Donner cut. So he said that he was going to buy it, pick up a copy of himself. So who knows if he actually did. Most people who know me know I'm a massive comic book fan, whether it's DC or Marvel, but I'm a huge Superman fan. So much so that in most of my user platform names, whether it's on the consoles, whether it's on the Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo, I usually have the title of Kal-El in it. For those of you know, that's Clark Kent, aka Superman's Kryptonian name. But that's how much of a massive fan I am of Superman. Obviously, people know that I collect the comics. I even got a Superman necklace, Superman T-shirts, the different TV series and the cartoons, Smallville. Obviously, it was Clark Kent in that, but obviously became Superman towards the end of it. But yeah, everything. And then you would have already seen that I did a video on the Superman collection that showed that DVD, which had all of them from Superman the movie to the Brandon Routh Superman Returns. And I've also got the Blu-ray version, which I will be doing in a separate video. So yeah, a massive Superman fan across the comics, and it's all t-shirts and statues and so many things that I have that are related to Superman, and also the Superman family, where you've got Superboy, the clone version, and you've got characters like Steel and Supergirl, and then Eradicator, and obviously now in the comics, obviously he has a son now, so it's a lot to kind of and then there's even a Chinese Superman as well. So yeah, I'm a huge Superman fan. So I remember growing up as a kid, the Superman that I grew up on from my age bracket was the Christopher Reeve Superman. And I didn't get a chance to see the movies in the cinema. Actually, tell a lie. The first Superman film, obviously, I was just about alive, but I would have been a year or two old, so I would never have seen it in the cinema. Superman 2, obviously, which was filmed set back to back, but obviously we know the story behind that. And Superman 3, I did see in the cinema, because I remember getting this collector's booklet, which would fold out into a big Superman 3 poster, which also over the years I lost, and I think that is worth a lot of money now. And obviously you know about Superman 4, the Quest for Peace, which I've got a funny story about that, where again, this is before being able to buy the movies on VHS, because when the Superman movies used to come on TV, it was a kind of a special treat. And my aunt, who first had the first VHS player in the family, she recorded like Superman and like the James Bond films. So when we eventually got our VHS player, I just borrowed her Superman copy. Or when I went round to her house, that's how I would watch Superman. The movies, or obviously if it was on an Easter or at Christmas, for me it was like a special treat. But with Superman 4, I never actually saw it. I had the Superman book, which, you know what, I might Superman 4 Quest for Peace. I have the book of that, and I might do that in a separate video actually, so you can have a look at that if anyone's interested. And I remember that I knew about the storyline, but not what would happen, what the ending would be. Although, the book, the novelization is slightly different because it's more based on the original script. And we were about to watch it again. We were still kids, because I think Superman, the Quest for Peace came out in '87, I think, and it may have been on TV like a few years after that. So, and it was about to come on, I remember on ITV, and then we ended up having a power cut, which ordinarily it wouldn't have bothered me, but because they were about to air Superman 4, Quest for Peace, I didn't end up seeing the actual movie, and I didn't end up seeing it until I think I bought the collector's, the one that you saw me do the video in the collector's tin, edition, and that's when I first saw it, and obviously was kind of shocked because obviously the quality of it, and people know the story behind that because obviously it was made by Canon. But yeah, but Superman, the movie was the Superman film that I grew up with, and even I would say even now, obviously with special effects blockbuster movies or superhero films now, you've got the advantage of CGI and modern technology. But if you do have access to the Superman original movie, I would watch the featurettes on how they made the special effects, because they even invented new special effect techniques to show that you can believe a man could fly. I think it was called Zoop technology. It's the way they do stuff with the camera, but it's in the making. I suppose you can find it on YouTube as well. But the way, I remember watching it as a kid and really believing that the character was flying. It's just the special effects, just the way they did it. A lot of the 70s, late 70s, 60s, early 60s super films that were around were kind of, you could really tell that they kind of weren't made on a shoestring budget. But with this movie, it was just absolutely, just the effects and the model work that they used in the and the back screen projection that was used when it was showing Christopher Reeve flying. And obviously people may know that Christopher Reeve was actually a pilot as well, so that kind of helped in a way that he would move around his body, so it actually looked like he actually was flying. But so he was the Superman that I grew up on. So although I know there's some purists out there that really love Christopher Reeve, and they don't like the other Superman, which I think is unfair, because obviously, unfortunately, Christopher Reeve would later lose his life. And even if he was still about now, what would have happened is that he would have been either too old to play the role. So with most a character actor, whether it's someone like James Bond or or whoever, or Batman, everyone's gonna have their own vision of how they're gonna make that film, and obviously actors are gonna age, so you can't have the actor playing the same role forever. So I don't mind that you've got the different Superman, so you can still have Christopher Reeve being your favourite Superman and that being the childhood character that you grew up on, but still enjoy the other actors who have played it and future actors that will play it. Obviously now we're gonna be having David Cornsweet playing Clark Kent's Superman. So I'm prepared. I'm gonna give him a chance, because as I said before, I think it's a bit unfair where everyone expects try to compare him to Christopher Reeve, and there's only one Christopher Reeve, and as before, it's kind of a bit an unfair comparison. Now, I always knew of that there were two versions of the Superman movie. There was the theatrical version, which was obviously released in the cinema, or the one that's commonly seen on DVD or Blu-ray or on TV. And there was also a special edition version of it, which you can see at the bottom, and that's also available in the Blu-ray and DVD Superman collection, where you get two versions of Superman. You get the theatrical Superman and the special edition. And where the special edition differs from the theatrical version of it is it's got new scenes in it, which I think takes the film up to over 2 hours long, so it's way longer than the theatrical cut. And for a long time, the Superman special edition was my favourite version of Superman the movie, mainly because also you get to see more of the actual movie, and obviously being a big Chris Reeve and Superman fan, I did obviously years down the line there were stories of that there was another version of it, which sometimes you don't know whether it's true or not, or people are telling wives' tales, and it would later come up that there was a extended cut version of the movie which was over 3 hours long, which for years I've just to read on different internet boards, forum boards, that there was another version of it, which I thought, is this true, isn't this true? And then a few years ago, I read that they were going to release this version of it, which comes with the Superman extended cut, and the special edition doesn't come with the normal version of it. So I jumped at the chance to get it because I'm big Superman fan, and it's going to be interesting in seeing another version of the actual movie. Now, I love watching extended edition extended edition movies, or even director's cut, because especially more so of the director's cut. Obviously, sometimes they can add in new scenes or chop scenes out. Sometimes it doesn't. It adds more context to the story or to the characters, and sometimes it can go even so far as almost totally changing the movie. We've seen with the original Lord of the Rings trilogy, where they released was it the Fellowship of the Rings, and then the Two Towers and the third movie, where they would release the normal version of those movies, and then 6 months later release the extended cut version of each movie, making it 3 hours, more than 3 hours long. Which I don't mind a movie being that long as the story is entertaining, so it doesn't feel as if you're being dragged down or being bored with the film being so long. But if you're really engrossed and enjoying the film, you don't realise the film is that long. And I think what helped with the extended cut, especially that there's been quite a few cinema releases where films have been nearly 3 hours long, so kind of makes more sense that that they would do something like this. And now with people now, we all know with Superman 2 that obviously the story behind that, where Richard Donner filmed Superman 1 and 2 back to back, was there was a falling out, and then he quit, and then Richard Lester took over, and because he wanted the director's credit, he had to reshoot. You have to have directed more than 50% of the movie, something like that, and the Richard Donner one was about 80% complete. So he basically remade the film, and then later on along the line we would get the Richard Donner cut. Now, when you watch the Superman 2 theatrical cut and the Richard Donner cut of Superman 2, they're literally totally different movies. I mean, that's how drastic the movies are. And obviously, certain key plots, obviously when Clark's going to fight against Zod and his men, that's going to be similar. The basic key steps of the actual building blocks of the actual movie. But the actual, how it gets made to see, it's very different. So, but what I can happily report that with Superman Extended Cut is that it doesn't actually, with it being over 3 hours, it's 3 hours and 8 minutes. But with it having the scenes extended, it's what I would say about it, and what really works about it is that it doesn't change the story of the original Superman movie, or the original version of it. It worked to cut the special edition of it. But what it does do is pretty much in every key scene in the movie, they've actually extended it and then made fleshed out the characters, giving them more screen time, letting us get to know more of the character and more of the storyline plot, and even adding some things even fleshing out things which make it makes the movie make even more sense. So we'll go through the key bits that are different. Now, the first part of the film, obviously, we know is set on Krypton. Obviously, and we know what's happened with the destruction of Krypton. Now, there's an added scene. There's some few added extended scenes, and it's quite extensive, where the council members find out that the power's been drawn, extra power's been drawn to Jor-El's chambers, and then they send somebody to go after him and to arrest him, and obviously they're going to put him to the Phantom Zone, which is kind of ironic because he sent Zod and his gang there. And then you actually see looks like all their version of the police going to arrest Jor-El and his wife. Now, that I do not remember ever being in either the theatrical cut or the special edition cut. And obviously you would end up having the destruction of Krypton. Now, where this is very different is that the actual destruction of Krypton, when it's all just being destroyed and all cracking up and blood, and it's much longer than the theatrical or special edition. And even when the people are dying, which is serves them right because they didn't listen to Jor-El, it's kind of a little bit more, I can't think of a right word. It's a lot more brutal because you're literally seeing the people flying around and dropping to their deaths. And although we do see that in the other versions of Superman 1, Superman the movie, should I say, it goes on from a lot longer and it's kind of a lot more graphic in terms of what happens. Um, Another key bit, obviously, that we see is Clark Kent as a teenager, cleaning up after the American football team, as you Americans call it. And obviously, the younger version of Clark Kent, or the teenage version of Clark Kent, is being played by this actor called Jeff East, and his voice is dubbed over by Christopher Reeve, and he's actually the actor's wearing a wig because I think he's got red hair in real life. Now, although the scenes of Clark as a teenager we did have were well established in the original cuts of Superman the movie. What's really great with this version of it is that they give you loads and loads more time with the teenage Clark Kent, which I think was really great, and I loved seeing that. And it kind of helped to flesh out his character and give Jeff East, who obviously was playing the young Clark Kent, a lot more screen time, which I thought was absolutely fantastic. And then obviously the bit where he's running against to outrun the train. I mean, obviously Lois is on there. Now, depending on which version you watch, because if you watch the theatrical version of it, you don't see Lois on the train. If you watch this version of it and the special edition version of it, you see Lois on the as a little girl seeing Clark run. But even the scene where he's running to trying to outrun the train, and when he eventually jumps across it, that scene goes on for far much longer. And we even see it from Lois's perspective, where she's looking for the binoculars, and you can see him. And even the special effects, for me, I know some people sit there and say it's a bit hokey, but it still holds up. For me, it was really sad seeing Pa Kent pass away. That still sends a chill down my spine in seeing that, and even if a tear or two, because it's just something really sad about them, and he was played by Glenn Ford. And it's just the way they kind of did that. And even, obviously, when they find Clark as a kid, as a young child, there's even more scenes with that in the conversation between Pa Kent and Jonathan Kent and, should I say, and Martha Kent. And there's a little bit of exposition between the two characters I thought was great. And obviously, Clark would have then eventually go north to eventually they're building the Fortress of Solitude. And even that scene where he happened to travel to the North Pole to eventually create the Fortress of Solitude, that the whole scene of him traveling there there's a lot more footage of it, or a lot more footage of that what really happened. There's even this bit where you see a close up of young Clark walking towards the camera, and as he does, it goes out of focus, and then you see it and then it moves, so you see from behind his head. Great camera work. And then once he's in the fortress and it's built, you see more footage of that than I remember seeing in the original version of it, which was great. So I'm really glad that we got to see more of the teenage Clark Kent. Obviously, it's kind of what Smallville's kind of based on, obviously the teenage years of Clark Kent. But I love the way how they did this, and they gave Jeff East a lot more screen time for him to have in the actual movie, which I thought was absolutely fantastic. So I absolutely loved that. Obviously, he would eventually go to Metropolis to work for the Daily Planet. There's lots of extended scenes with the characters and the scenes. That was great as well. The bit obviously where the cops are following Altus because they're trying to hopefully find Lex Luthor, and then they're following him, and there's a whole extended scene from when the cops are trying to follow him to when one of the cops gets killed by Lex. And I would say that scene's a good 10 minutes long, around a good 10 minutes longer than a good 10 minutes longer than what it was in either cut of the actual movie. And then we end up finding out that he has some kind of strange pets. I don't know if they're jaguars down there. There's even a funny scene between Altus and Miss Teschmacher where where she's in a bathing costume, and you can see that Altus is kind of perving on her, and he's trying to take a picture of her, and she's not taking any notice. There's more scenes between Altus and Lex Luthor, brilliantly played by the late Ned Beatty and Gene Hackman. There's a lot more scenes between them, and even more jokes, which I thought was actually really funny. And then obviously when Lois, obviously that helicopter accident, there's a lot, that bit is also really extended. obviously Superman saving her, making his first appearance, and even that's extended as well, which I thought was kind of great because he ends up finding this hat that's dropped on the floor, and when he looks up, he's not, obviously he's got X-ray, he's got supervision. He obviously sees Lois with the helicopter about to fall, and for her and the pilot to plummet to their death. And then there's a bit where he picks up her hat, and then that's when he realizes that it's her hat. And then, but when you watch out version of it, when he goes to tear his shirt up and he's still holding the hat, and you kind of don't notice, but now it kind of makes more sense. Obviously, he would go to save her, and then it's Superman's first night in publicly revealing himself as a super. Well, it doesn't say Superman because he doesn't get the name Superman until later on in the movie. And then there's even this sequence where you see Christopher Reeves as Superman, doing all these different types of flying, and in and then there's a totally new scene of him flying close up to the camera and smiling. It was just absolutely brilliant. I mean, I can't tell you and I can't describe to you how that felt in actually seeing seeing a new scene of Christopher Reeves flying, which you've never seen before. And then obviously you'll know the bit where the guy is climbing the skyscraper, and then that bit's extended. The bits where the cops are after those crooks who've stolen something, and then they go into the boat. That bit is totally extended. The bit with the girl and that Superman goes to rescue her cat, that's extended. Pretty much every scene in the movie is extended. So every scene that you can possibly think of, pretty much every scene in the entire movie is basically they've extended it by about a good 5 to 10 minutes. So you're getting a lot more for your buck, I would say, definitely. The bit obviously where Lex sends the missiles to destroy different parts of the United States, obviously, so he can gain more. So his land that he's already bought up is going to be worth a lot more money. And obviously, Superman, should I say? But well, they actually are the same character. Has to fly into the San Andreas fault, and then actually fixes it. And then that scene where he's flying underneath the earth and then trying to put it all back. That scene is way longer, and it goes on for much longer. And then that town where the water's about to come in, and there's even a scene where people are actually jumping from the top of their houses to try and escape the earthquake. Don't remember that bit being in it at all. And the bit where he saves Jimmy, that bit is extended as well. There's even a bit where obviously where he's flying with Jimmy, he's flying to put him down, and then Jimmy's got his camera, and then Superman goes turns around to Jimmy and says, "You can take some pictures." So he's actually holding Jimmy in the air and then Jimmy's taking a photograph of the dam and all the water breaking, and that wasn't in it. That was not in it at all. I mean, you see Jimmy running to try and find Lois. That bit is extended as well. Obviously, with Lois dying, spoiler alert. And obviously, the trick that what Superman does. And as I said before, the stuff with the missiles, with the first missile that he stops, the way that he tried to stop the first one was they've extended that. The bit where he pushes all those rocks to try and stop the water coming into the to drowning all the town folk. That bit is actually a lot longer, and you see him doing a lot more stuff with pushing on the rocks. And then the water diverts to this. I think they're Native American, and then they see water, and then the kids start playing in the water, and they start playing the water because the water's diverted to their reservation. Now that is not in any of the versions, so again, seeing all that was absolutely great. If you remember when Superman goes to apprehend Lex Luthor, Lex Luthor tricks him with opening that leaded box and puts the kryptonite around Superman's neck. And if you remember, Mr. Teschmacher basically says that if you save my mother first, I'll take the chain off her. And you always promise, you always do what you say when you promise. And he goes, "I will," and then she throws it off. But there's an added bit towards the end of it where Lex is after Superman has obviously rewound time and saved Lois, and as it cuts back to Lex Luthor playing on the piano, and then he orders Altus to kill Miss Teschmacher, and then she's about to be killed, and then Superman swoops in and then saves her, and then Superman looks at her and then says to Miss Teschmacher, "Oh, your mother says hello," which I thought was an absolutely great scene, and not only a great scene but a great line, because we hear him say that he's going you promise Superman that you're gonna save my mum first, which is what he actually does do. He saves the town with the first missile, because the first missile is the diversion. So although we don't actually see him meet her mother, I do like that they pay off at the end that, you know, him saying to Miss Teschmacher, "Oh, your mother says hello." So it's clear obvious that he met her. And then obviously he takes Lex Luthor to jail and Altus, and then obviously he flies, obviously he does the great thing he used to do. I used to love this when I used to watch Superman, whether it was on VHS, on TV, whatever, when you see Christopher Reeves flying around the earth, and he kind of flies towards the camera, looks at you, smiles, and then banks off. I used to love that every single time I used to watch on TV, and I remember even seeing it on VHS, I used to keep winding it back to see the bit where he looks at the camera and smiles. And I'm glad that they kind of did something, they paid homage to it in the Brandon Routh Superman Returns. But overall, yes, it's a long movie, and yes, I can it's with over 3 hours and 8 minutes long. And yes, I can understand why originally with the theatrical cut, why things were cut down, obviously for to do with pacing issues. We know they probably thought that certain scenes dragged on too long. And then obviously with the Superman Special Edition, we would get obviously a lot more added scenes to the actual movie, and then with this extended cut, we get even more so. And to me, it didn't feel like 3 hours at all. And I can honestly say that originally the special edition was my favorite. Now the only thing I think that's a little bit just different is, to me, is the sound, because the other Superman movies, they've remastered them in 5.1, whereas the extended edition isn't. It's 2.0, but you can get your home cinema system to kind of reconfigure that, but it still doesn't sound as well channeled. That's the only negative thing I would say about the sound, where it's not 5.1. Now I don't know if the extended edition is available, because I know they recently released the Chris Reeves movies and onto 4K, so I don't know if the 4K version of it do contain all three versions of the film, with it being the theatrical cut, the special edition, and now the extended cut. So I don't know if this version is going to be on it. But now in total, now we have 3 versions of Superman the movie, which is absolutely brilliant. As I said before, each of the different versions of the extended or cuts of the actual movie not only add something new to the actual movie and storyline, but also help to flesh out all the characters, not just some of them, but all of them, but without changing the actual structure of the movie, whether it's changing the movie or taking away something from the movie. But the extended cut version of Superman the movie is now definitely my favorite version of it. And but I would say, if you've never watched any of the versions of Superman the movie version, I would say at least watch the theatrical cut, even if you're going to miss out on not watching the special edition, and then watch the extended cut, because then you'll see more of the difference between and how much of a huge difference it is. So I obviously, for me, I just went straight and watched the extended cut, because I've watched the theatrical cut, the special edition version of it so many times over the years. So I already know what to expect, or I can see what key differences are going to be in the actual movie. And I don't care what anyone says. It's all about special effects. The effects for me still hold up, and they still look great. And the John Williams Superman theme, absolutely bomb. But if you've got a home cinema system, crank it up. I would say absolutely fantastic film. And I don't care what anyone says. I know there's Marvel, obviously with the big Marvel movies that have come out over the years, and some of the DC movies. And it's not a disrespect to any of those movies, because I know because the Marvel movie franchise has been doing very well up until recently. But for me, obviously, Superman movie was the template for all the Marvel movies. Kevin Feige has actually even admitted that every time he's about to run an idea for a new Marvel movie, he always watches Superman the movie, and you can clearly tell the first Wonder Woman movie definitely You can see where it takes homage from the where Patty Jenkins' vision of Wonder Woman. You can definitely see the Superman the movie in it, especially the bit where she deflects the bullets in Wonder Woman. So, and then obviously with Superman Returns, obviously he's meant to be the same Chris Reeve version of Superman, obviously played by Brandon Routh. But obviously that pays a lot of homage to the Christopher Reeve Superman, which is meant to be the same version of it. But yeah, Superman the movie, as far as I see it in my book, I know it's with the youngsters, obviously they grew up in the newer films and the new CGI special effects. For me, Superman the movie, and even Superman 2, but more so Superman 1, because obviously where it all started, for me, is the best superhero movie of all time. And I don't say that lightly. I mean, for me, it just actually is. Great storyline, great music, great special effects, but still hold up. Chris Reeves, he's playing the dual identity of Clark Kent and Superman. But what I loved about his version of Clark Kent is the fact that his voice is different. Although Chris Reeve is actually, I think it was 6'4", 6'5", but I think it was 6'4". The way that he plays Clark Kent to Superman is so different in terms of the way that Superman is more confident and more, you can tell he's a little bit shy, but more confident in the way he walks and the way he talks. Clark Kent is kind of more of a shy, retiring, and even if you look very carefully, he actually hunches his whole body, and you'll see that more so in Superman 2, where they go on this honeymoon vacation thing. This is part of this reported thing that Perry sends him on, and Lois even tells him to kind of hunch up and maybe even lose the glasses. I mean, she kind of suspects that he might be Superman. And then there's even a bit in Superman the movie where obviously Lois has a flight with Superman, and then Clark, and he flies off after their night of flying and that Lois Lane poem, and then Clark comes in ringing the doorbell and saying to Lois, "Oh, didn't you hear me knock?" And then she goes, "Oh, I'm just gonna go and get my coat." And then you actually see him take off his glasses and actually just stand up unhunched, and he grows taller, and he goes, "Lois, I've got something to tell you." And then you see his whole stature just change from Clark Kent to Superman. And then as soon as he's not about to tell, he puts glasses back on and then hunches back down. So he's kind of more hunched down. So he's not as tall as Superman. But Chris Reeve, I know people make the joke and say, "Oh, he's just wearing the glasses, so he still should be able to tell that he's the same person." But the way that Christopher Reeve played Clark Kent and Superman, you could really believe that they weren't the same person, especially with the way his body's hunched up, the way he talks, and the way he's clumsy. He's so different from his Superman persona. So it's not just the glasses that helps as the disguise. So yeah, I mean, I really, really miss Chris Reeve. I mean, obviously it was nice seeing him appearing in Smallville, kind of passing on the torch, if you will. And even though Superman 3 would later go down the more comedic route, and obviously we know the mess with the budget, what happened with Superman 4: The Quest for Peace, especially that film where it's not very good, but I would still watch it simply because of the fact that, as bad as the effects are in The Quest for Peace, and the comedy aspect, which they totally ruined in Superman 3, Christopher Reeve still played Superman and Clark Kent to a T, and that's what to me saved both of those movies in regards of how the drop off in terms of quality. Chris Reeve was absolutely brilliant as Superman, and to me he's really sadly missed. So yeah, he's the Superman I grew up. I mean, he was my first Superman. And yeah, with all the Supermans that have been thereafter, with the Tyler Eklund one, and Superman and Lois, and obviously Smallville with Tom Welling and Brandon Routh, Henry Cavill, and obviously now with David Cornsweet. I've loved all of them, even though they've all been different. So it's like it's like the Bonds, where all the actors are playing a different role, but it's still James Bond. But you can still have a favourite Bond, but still appreciate and like the other Bonds that have played in the role, and that's how I am with Superman or any superhero that they recast for whatever reason. But yeah, I really recommend watching Superman the extended cut. Where I don't know if it's available in any streaming platforms, but if it is, watch it. If you can get access to it and buying it physically, watch it. I'm telling you, if you've watched the theatrical cut and the special edition, you're gonna absolutely love the extended cut. Just as I said before, bearing in mind that it is a very long film. So yeah, that's my review of Superman the movie extended cut. But as I said, I love the way it expands the story, expanded character development and backstory. Some things that you kind of never explained in the theatrical version. But all that, for me, I feel like I'm satisfied in the way it's added in new lines and new scenes and the stretch out thing. But absolutely brilliant, man. Definitely in the next few months, I'm definitely going to watch it again. And yeah, I will still watch the theatrical version of Superman the movie and the special edition down the line. It's just that this one for me, unless they're going to unearth another version of it, it's definitely going to be my favourite version of the movie so far. So that's my review of Superman the movie extended cut, which again, as I said, I highly recommend watching. Anyway, yeah, one final thing. I know I did read somewhere along the line that the 3-hour-long version of Superman has been around on TV before, because it says on there a 3-hour-long TV version. Because what they would often do with some movies is that they would with some movies, I don't think they did it so much now, they would add in extra scenes onto certain movies. So you would get the TV versions of certain movies where they'll have extra scenes which you wouldn't see in the theatrical cut or even on streaming or DVD. So I think what they probably done is that maybe at some point, because I know that they didn't show it. It wasn't frequently, the TV version of Superman, the movie, wasn't frequently shown a lot here in the UK, as far as I know. And I think that obviously with it being the TV version being 3 hours long, I know that they would have done is that they would have split the movie in two. So they would have shown the first half hour and a half of Superman the movie, and then shown the next bit of it, or maybe if it's shown it all in one. But I do remember when I was a kid that there was a TV version, so that's, you know, obviously this version of it, or the extended cut. So yeah, just finally glad that I actually own a physical copy of this version of the TV version, as I say, that's what it is, the 3-hour long TV version of it. So yeah, I'm just sorry I took so many years, because I've had this for years in not actually watching it, but I'm glad I've finally got around to watching it, and I absolutely love it. Anyway, I hope people enjoyed this review. Please feel free to share with your friends and family. If you can give this video a thumbs up, I would highly appreciate that. That allow people to find my YouTube channel and content on the YouTube recommendation page. This is because of the YouTube algorithms which favour the bigger YouTubers. So their channel and content get advertised more than the bigger, smaller YouTubers. So small YouTubers like myself don't get a look in. So that would help me find new subscribers and new viewership. So I just want to spread my work. Speaking of that, if you already haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. If you want to see videos like this, movie reviews, Blu-ray unboxings, comic books, video gameplay, video unboxings, comic book unboxings, food reviews, drinks reviews, comics, I've already said that, some of my personal Blu-ray and Steelbook and DVD collection, I'll be doing stuff like that, and the odd new stuff that I buy. Keep an eye out for that. If you want to see that, subscribe to my YouTube channel. I also stream on Twitch, so it's on Ryan Ricardo 76, so you can find me easily. I'll put a link in the description if you ever want to check me out live. I do export the videos from there, depending on what they are, to YouTube. Some games like Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain, I'm not gonna export that because of there's so many music videos in it, and I don't get tons of copyright strike. So that's why, unfortunately, you won't be seeing that on there. So that's more than reason to go to my Twitch. Just before Christmas, we hit the 500 sub mark. So thank you to the thank you to all the subs, old and new. I really appreciate that. A few weeks ago, we hit 600. Again, thank you to all the subs, old and new. I really appreciate that, and it really means a lot. It just gives me the motivation to want to persevere even more. We're already now we're all pretty much halfway to 700 subs already. So a big thank you to all of it. Really means a lot. The next big milestone will be 1,000 YouTube subs. That's going to be a long way to go before we kind of get there. So I'll try and think of something to do when we actually get that far. Again, I did do a YouTube short thanking everybody for the birthday wishes, which was on the 3rd of May. But I really appreciate that. I mean, you wouldn't believe how much it means. People sit there and wish me a happy belated birthday. I mean, normally most of my family don't remember, most of my friends don't remember, and it comes to a point where I've never really celebrated it because most people don't remember, and most of the time I get people text me happy birthday, maybe here and there, on social platforms, whether it's on Twitter or on Facebook, but I've never had that happen on YouTube. People wish me happy birthday, and that really means a lot. So a big thank you. You'll know I think I pretty much replied back to everybody personally to thank all of you. So although I haven't named any of you, you'll know who I'm talking about because I've replied back to all of you. And if I haven't, I do apologize. But yeah, thanks to all of you that sent me the kind birthday wishes. It really meant a lot, and to me that means more than people buying you a birthday gift or even give me a birthday card. That really meant a lot when it's people that you don't know, wherever you are in the world, sit there and saying that to you, and especially because of your YouTube work. So I thank you to all of you for the birthday wishes. So it really means a lot to me. Thank you. Anyway, it just leaves me to say, wherever you are in the world, please stay safe, and I'll speak to you again on the next video. Bye for now.